All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, I want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Someone asked me a question this week without even, I don't really want to go into the details of the question. Question doesn't really matter. It's really what's behind the question. Someone, I'll say it like this, Reuven tells Shimon something, and Shimon says, well, it's very nice. How are you allowed, let's say, to rely on this? Not something normally we should rely on, regardless, doesn't matter what it is. And basically, they got in a disagreement, and Reuven says, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Now, practically speaking, he's relying on leniencies that really shouldn't be relied on, right? Let's say. Shouldn't really be relied on. And so Shimon tells him, how are you allowed to do this? Right? Shouldn't be allowed to do this. You're relying on something you shouldn't rely on. Right? So he started looking things up, this and that, and then I got the question. They said, but is this person real, this source, that source? Seems that this person's not doing what's right. Which I said, yeah, there are certain circumstances that a person could rely on, this leniency, whatever. But in the end, it shouldn't be done, right? It's really the bottom line. It shouldn't be done. But the person himself didn't want to check. Didn't want to go through the information, wasn't interested. So this person came to me and said, well, is this person doing, what he should be doing or not? I said, no. I said, under certain circumstances, it's okay. Right? Again, it doesn't really matter what the case is. Right? That's not really the point. What is the point? The point is, as this person pointed out, he says, this person, Shimon, wants to go to the beat of his own drum. Right? Without double checking things out. So now this is a problem. This is the problem which comes up. Where somebody wants to do what they want to do. Right? Forget about, if they don't really believe in God, not really holding anywhere. They don't have an issue. I mean, I do, but it doesn't really matter because they're not holding by Jewish law. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. Right? So what am I going to argue about? I can show them proofs. They don't want to hear it. Okay. Who says you have to listen to me? Fine. Right? You don't want to listen. Good. But if someone who knows better or seemingly knows better and says, I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's the problem. Right? Now, why is it a problem? It's obvious why. Because if they have who to rely on, they want to hold by a certain leniency under certain circumstances, okay? They have who to rely on. But if you don't have that to rely on anymore, then we'd ask the question, why are they doing it? Convenience? It's easier. I mean, I can think of a lot of different reasons, none of which are good. Right? But what stuck out in this email that the person sent me was that this person seems to be going according to the beat of his own drum. Now, I'm going to tell you straight out, somebody like this, okay, this person's Jewish. They're not a convert. They're not a JIT, right? They're not a Jew in training. They're not a convert. But if they would be, it would seem much more problematic. Why? The reason is because one thing that a potential convert and a Jew in general needs to know, and that is they have to be subservient to what the rabbis say. In other words, they go to rabbinical courts The rabbis are going to dictate how much more you have to learn or less or whatever. They're the ones calling the shots. Nobody comes in, let's make clear, nobody comes in with an agenda. And if you do, the rabbinical court are going to take their sweet time. Because one thing the rabbinical court wants to see, I'm not saying they drag their feet. I'm not saying when they're wasting time or whatever. Right? The point is that they want to see is a potential student, a potential convert, or anybody else for that matter, are they going to listen to what they say? For a potential convert is much more crucial. Why? Because they're coming into Judaism. They're coming to us, right? Non-Jews coming to us. And it's just ironic many, many times, and I bring this up a lot because it just comes up a lot, that people think they can say what they want, do what they want, and the rabbinical court is going to just like bow down to them. And the rabbinical court is going to say, okay, you want to come and convert? That's beautiful. We don't have enough Jews. We're looking for plenty of Jews. That's not the issue. We're not out to proselytize. Judaism, no offense to anybody listening, Judaism doesn't care if any potential convert today, they all get hit by a bus or drop dead or who knows what. We're not losing any sleep over it. You know why? So I'm looking for converts. Not interested in people convert. Oh, but someone says, I want to be the real deal and I want to show. Okay. But who gives people the right to come in and say, you owe me? You wouldn't do it in the church. You wouldn't say, listen, I want to convert to Catholicism, but you're not putting any water on me. Not in the bathtub, not in the swimming pool, not in the ocean. They're going to say, see ya. I mean, maybe you pay them enough, they'll do it. But, you go into you go to an imam, right? You want to convert to be a Muslim, you tell them certain things you're not going to do. You think they're going to listen? Why in the world should they listen? You're coming to them. They're going to say you deserve to die anyway because you're an infidel. Right? They don't believe in Muhammad and all that. So people have an agenda issue. They think I can do what I want, say what I want, and we, the Jewish people, owe you. Beg to differ. I had students converted here, and the rabbinical court asked them, it was before Rosh Hashanah, and the rabbinical court asked them, what if we tell you that, you have to move to a different, stronger community? Right? What did they answer? They said, we'll do whatever you tell us to do. We're not going away. They said, okay, it's right before Rosh Hashanah. What if we tell you that you're not going to be able to convert before the High Holy Day? So you have to go through Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Sukkot again is a non-Jew. Right? So these two people said, it was a husband and wife. And they both said, listen, you just tell us what we need to do. If that's the case, we'll wait. And you know what? That's the right answer. I was like, yeah, that's the right answer. Why? Because the Basin wants to know. And they want to hear. Not that you worship the ground they walk on. That's idolatry. They want to know, are you going to listen to what they say? Are you going to listen to what the rabbis say? I know a friend of mine also deals with converts, took you a convert, former rapper. I think he still raps, not exactly sure. But he wanted to do, wanted to be an Orthodox Jew, okay. But he still wanted to rap in the same venue he did before. Now, any Beis Din worth anything is not going to put their name to such a thing. Not because of the lyrics, other than maybe tone down the lyric. But they basically said no. They said no. There's a limit. So what do you think you can do? You want to do it in a kosher way? Different issue. Right? See what Nissim Black does. Not everyone, may like his music or whatever, but he does it in a kosher way. This person wanted to do what he wanted to do. So what the Beis Din say? We're not converting you. He might have been ready, knowledge was, but he wasn't willing to lay himself down. He wasn't willing to listen. So someone cops an attitude. I'm just telling anyone who's got any egos out here. And anyone's going to cop an attitude in front of a rabbinical court, they're just going to, just going to shrug the shoulders. They want, you're coming in. You're not dictating. Right? I mentioned this a number of times. So it comes out over here. Right? If the person says he doesn't want to listen, totally doesn't want to listen, he's relying on a leniency he shouldn't rely on. Period. Shouldn't be relied on. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't want to go into it. But doesn't matter. So the person says, but he's going according to what he thinks. You don't want to double check information. This is the problem. Because anybody, whether it's someone who's born Jewish, comes to Judaism, it's about tshuva, someone who converts, whatever, you want to do things to the best of your ability. Even if someone's born as FFP, from birth, right? Religious from birth. We might be lazy. We might not always do the right thing. We might sometimes rely on things maybe we shouldn't. But you see, if someone tells someone something, and he's giving rebuke, he's got an obligation to give rebuke here. He's giving him rebuke, says, how could you do this? How could you rely on this? Blah, blah, blah. And the other person says, I'm going to do exactly what I did before, blah, 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 even though not living in the same city. So he's got his own justification, whatever it is. He doesn't want to listen. So that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. Because the Torah tells me in the book of Deuteronomy, there's a mitzvah, it's an obligation to listen to the Kohanim in every generation. Kohanim, Levim, the Levites in every generation. Now that means, as the Torah tells me, we'll make it real graphic. Even if they say what's left is right, what's right is left. The Torah makes clear you have to listen to what the rabbis say. Period. Even doesn't make sense to you. You have to listen to what they say. Now a person says, yeah, but I'm going to rely on this. I'm going to, if he doesn't have a leg to stand on, that's called Torah made up in your own mind. Now again, we may have a little bit of this in ourselves. It's not necessarily rebellious to be rebellious. They want to do what they want to do and justify it. If they're justified, very good. I have no issues. Even if I necessarily wouldn't do it myself. They got who to rely on, okay. If not, then you have to give a reason why you're doing it. And if you say, I want to do it anyway, blah, blah, blah. We sometimes do this ourselves. We rely on things maybe we shouldn't. In different things. But here, what's going on? Not only does the person want to listen, right? But he's doing what he wants. The person gave him an option, gave him an out. Right? What was the out? Go ask somebody. Go ask your local Orthodox rabbi what to do. Don't go to Rabbi Dr. Google. Go ask somebody who knows something. Double check to make sure it's okay. Person wasn't interested. Now again, if he knows, he's got enough knowledge, he knows what he's doing, okay. He's got to rely on such a case, okay. But if you have a doubt, you got to go ask. You might not like the answer, okay, but you have to go ask. So if somebody says, this is what I'm doing, I don't need to double check. Should have. Because I guarantee anybody's going to ask that shouldn't do it. It shouldn't be relied on. That's what I know. That's kind of a scary proposition. Now, I would ask even further. We'll make this even a little more graphic. This person now invites you over for a meal. Invite you for a meal. Forget Shabbos. Invite you for a meal during the week. Would you trust his kashrus? You're going to say, Ma Kesher. What's the connection? What's the connection with his kashrus? It's a very big connection. Because the person saying, I'm going to do what I want. I know better. I don't have to ask. Somebody like that, who knows what he's relying on, kashrus or anything else. Now, we mentioned before, maybe you'll say, don't we do that to a certain extent? Could be. Maybe we justify things to ourselves. Maybe we should look into things further. Maybe shouldn't rely on certain things. Maybe. But see, if someone's going to call us on it, let's say we don't go for, we don't go ask our local Orthodox rabbi. We do what we do. And then someone asks you, but, what about this? What about that? And how could you rely on this? And you say, don't worry about it, I'm good. It's an attitude issue. Now there are people that may never ask questions when they should. In the Mishnah Birkei Avos, as it says in Ethics of Our Father, states clear, you have to know your place. My Rabbi told me this a number of times. If I think you're out of line, I'll tell you. And I was a number of times. He put me in my place, which he should have done. Right? But a person has to know their place, meaning if you don't know what the answer is, you can't find an answer, you have to go ask. You might not like the answer you get, but you have to go ask. Can't leave it in doubt. Right? You got to go ask. But a person says, I'm going to do this, and I'm justified, blah, 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 when the person really isn't, because this person called him on it. And he called him on it in the right way. Yeah, good information behind him. The person's wrong. Nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. It's something you shouldn't rely on, period. In other cases you could, not this case. So now you say, would you eat at his house? I don't know. I think twice, 3 times, 4 times. How do I know? That's why it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. A person has a rabbinic authority they can go to. Doesn't have to be the biggest of the biggest, but somebody they can go to get advice, ask questions. If they don't know, I'm sure they have people who they can ask. But you don't get anywhere in this world, I can tell you. You don't get anywhere without having a mentor, without having a guide. Right? Even the greatest rabbis need people to get advice from. But a person also has to know. We mentioned the Mishnah Pirkei Avos. Person has to know when it's beyond them. When they have to go elsewhere. Because they're not sure. They may know the answer, but they have their own biases. Right? So they want to flush it out with someone else. Right? When the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says to acquire for yourself a teacher, as a rabbi, that doesn't necessarily mean someone greater than you in knowledge. It can be someone who has the same knowledge, maybe even less knowledge, but what do? You have a conversation, you're learning, you have a question, even though the person may not know as much, right? But you're throwing it out there because he may be able to help you get an answer, get clarity. Because you have a certain bias, right? That's why when people learn, they learn with another person. They don't necessarily learn on their own unless they're at a certain level. But what's the reason they learn with someone else? Because not everyone thinks the same. Right? So when a person learns with someone else, they're bouncing off ideas off each other. And that one person saying maybe a different way, you're saying a different way, you're going back and forth to see, who's really right, different proofs, this, that. But not everyone thinks the same. Everybody doesn't think the same in general. Right? So a person who wants to learn, we have biases. We have our own biases. So it's good, if a person's not sure. They bounce it off someone else. And that person doesn't have to be, a top rabbinic scholar. They can be someone equal, even less, but someone has a certain level of knowledge. You're going to say, so, okay, so 2 people learning and both are beginners. That's not a bad thing. You're both starting from scratch. Okay. But even, someone's at a higher level, no reason why you can't ask someone who's on a low level. Right? Doesn't necessarily mean they got to know the answer per se, but they may get them to think in a different way. right? So we're not trying to put someone down just to put them down, right? If you're learning with someone else, you want to get to the truth. You want to get to the truth of what you're learning, right? That's the whole point. But I can say, I certainly can say in my own life, of what I've seen, and with, great rabbis I've been in contact with and different things. It's a whole different world. Right? I was talking to someone yesterday. It's a whole different world when a person comes in contact with somebody that's, is much bigger than them, in knowledge, and they can learn from them. They can gain from them. It's also pretty humbling knowing, someone's way up there and you're like way down here, but okay, somebody like that, you hold on to for dear life, because they can change your life. They can show you things, other people can't because of their wealth of knowledge, a different thing. So one of the first things I put on my blog many years ago, first thing I put on was don't think, as a JIT or a Jew in training, whatever, that someone's going to get through the process by themselves. Doesn't mean people are stupid by any stretch. Person needs a guide, someone who's, knows the community, knows the ins and outs, knows the law. Right? But also, hopefully they can relate. Maybe they've gone through the same things. They haven't, but, someone knows how to deal with these situations. Not everyone's equipped to do that. But I always say, and people think it's kind of funny, I always say, when does the person need the most guidance? After conversion. Why after conversion? Because after conversion, where people stop potentially inviting a person for Shabbos and this and that, because then to go work on other people, right? Okay, you converted, you're done. That's when the work starts. Right? So it's better before conversion, mess everything up now, and then, get it straight before you convert so you minimize mistakes. But guidance is crucial. Absolutely crucial. Especially if a person doesn't know the nuances and they're on the outside looking in. Because how are they going to know? How are they going to know about dress? How are they going to know what to say? Other things. They're not going to know. Listen, you can get a certain amount of knowledge from books, 100%. Right? A lot of good books out there. Not the same as, I'd say it's not the same as being there. I remember someone moved to a Jewish community and they told me, they said, listen, you spoke so much about the difference between being in a community and outside of a community. They said there's no comparison. I said, of course there's no comparison. Right? I'm not saying you take what I said with a grain of salt, but at the same time, if you don't see it and you're not in it, you don't know. You don't know. So guidance is crucial. Obviously, you got to make sure, the person that they're getting guidance from is not a fraudster. Is the real deal, whoever that may be. A lot of good people out there, a lot of bad people out there. Right? You got to be careful where you get information from. I mentioned earlier to somebody about, the only class I don't give is, is teaching Hebrew, and there are a lot of videos a person can watch online, learning Hebrew and the alphabet and all that, and they're messianics. A lot of them. That's how they draw people in. You gotta be careful, right? You gotta be careful where the information comes from. So someone here asked, very good question. Someone asked, shouldn't you get to know a rabbi before putting trust in them? Right? There are many rabbis out there, shouldn't we scrutinize who we sit under? Sure. And there have been people that, have been messed up. Some people took a ton of money and they gave nothing. They gave a bag of bones. Less than that. So it's like anything else. A person's going to buy a house. You're not going to check the structure of the house. You're not going to get someone in and check, make sure it's not on quicksand or whatever. Person purchases something that's worth value. Doesn't have to be expensive, but it's worth value. You want to make sure you get a good one. A rabbi's no different. Most important thing to check First of all, you have to hear their message. Does their message resonate? Does it make sense? Right? But while you're listening to them, and there are a lot of good people out there, a lot of good speakers, tremendous amount of speakers, but at the same time, they may not necessarily say things not true. I mean, there are plenty of people out there that do, say things that aren't true and do all kinds of things no one should do. But what's also very important is credentials. Now, a person can have a resume, very long resume that's very good, right? But what's even more important than the resume? Or within the resume? What's very important in the resume is not only who they learned by, where they learned, but who do they themselves go to? Who is what they call their das Torah, their rabbinical authority they go to? So I remember I had a student went to based in Miami, and I was in the States at the time, and the base in Miami called me up. They said, we have a student of yours, you give these classes over the phone. I said, yes, which I was giving them over the phone at the time. So I said, yes. And they said, that's a little bit strange. I said, yes, it is. They said, can we ask you a few questions? So I said, sure. So I got nothing to hide. So, they asked me, how I've been doing it, what my curriculum is, where I taught, where I learned different things. And then they asked me the $1 million question. The $1 million question that they wanted to know is, who is your das Torah? Who is your rabbinical authority you go to? So I mentioned him. Someone I've been close for 10 years. Now it's over 25 years. One of the Torah giants of the generation. Make no mistake. Right? I mentioned him many times. I told him, I said, I quote you more than anybody else. You should look different, for what I do. So it's like, no. In any case, after I mentioned his name, it's like, oh, the one who lives in this neighborhood in Jerusalem? I said, yes. He's written this book, that book, and the other book. I said, yes. He said, the one that, he's the head of this, this rabbinical court in Jerusalem. I said, yes. They said, what exactly is your, connection to him? So I said, I'm considered like a son to him. He, treated me like a son. And, I learned by him. And I sat with him in, the rabbinical court, this and that. So they said, okay, no further questions. I said, why not? I said, first of all, a person needs a sponsoring rabbi, someone on the ground. I said, I can't do that because I don't live there. Right. But I said, how do you know I'm not bluffing? They said, come on, someone who mentions the rabbi of that stature, right? They're not going to be lying. I said, I mentioned a few other rabbis also, but I said, you never know. You never met someone like me. You have no idea. So I'm thinking in the back of my mind, if they call him, I hope he's going to vouch for me, right? But that was it. That was the end of the conversation. And then a month later, they called me back and they said, well, you sent a student that was ready to convert. I said, right. They were 100% ready to convert. I said, I'm not going to send you someone who's not ready to convert. It's a waste of time, waste of your time, waste of my time. Right? They were ready to convert 100%. Right? So then some fraudster comes out and he says, all this rabbi can do, meaning me, all I can do is write a letter. Well, you know what? That letter's worth something. It's worth something because I have credentials. Right? And someone went to actually this based in Miami, and a number of people convert in this in this based in Miami. So this person's been learning with a number of people, right? Another, number of rabbis and whatever. And he said, well, whose classes did you take? Majority of your classes, who did you take? From these conversion classes. So he mentioned my name and they know me. So that was it. I mean, he hasn't finished yet. Almost, whatever. But, just some technical issues. But so all I can do is write a letter. But if I have credentials, or if someone has credentials, their word is worth something. It's worth a piece of paper they write it on. That's a huge thing, not a small thing. Right? Definitely not a small thing. But you got people that don't have credentials. And they say all kinds of things, and people get taken for a ride. Absolutely for a ride. And it's like, and I would say it's like anything else. You have to research. I had somebody, probably some of the best students I ever had. This is not years ago. And, I gave information, gave some of my classes. I said, you want you to check it out, whatever, not a problem. So they did a little bit of research. 2 days later, I get a phone call. They said, We looked up like different things about, who your rabbi is, and this and like, do you have any idea who he is? I said, I know absolutely who he is. When I first met him, I didn't. I said, but of course I know who he is. He's a bona fide Torah giant, according to everyone. Probably one of the top 5 rabbis today in the world, in the Orthodox world. Nothing to talk about. Doesn't mean they agree with him and everything he says. Doesn't matter. I was just talking to someone yesterday, about all the great rabbis he saw in the previous generation. All of them. He had a connection to everybody. He's like a giant of a giant. In fact, I have a connection to him as miraculous. Miraculous. From where I came from. I don't do anything without him. When I have a question, I go to him. 25 years. Back and forth. So, and I'm not saying it to brag. It's nothing to brag about here. Right? The point is, you're right. You have to do the research. And then not only that, what does the Gemara say? The Gemara says that to learn under somebody, to learn under someone, they have to look to you like an angel. Now, does that mean they're perfect? Doesn't mean they're perfect. But they have to be to you like an angel. If they're not to you like an angel, you can't learn by somebody like that. One of my rabbis told me I learned by somebody only for a couple of weeks. He said the person was an unbelievable genius in Talmudic law. Unbelievable genius. But he said his character traits were so bad he couldn't learn by him. I mean, this person himself is a genius. Right? But derech eretz kidmei l'Torah. Proper character traits come before Torah. Someone could be an absolute genius, but, if they speak and they yell and they this and that, they do all kinds of, terrible things. What's their Torah worth? They're not worth anything. So, anybody learns under anybody. Yeah. I would tell people, listen to them, see what they say, see if what they say makes sense. But when you check them out, you see who they learned by and who they're in contact with. Now it could be there are people that have gone to great institutions, learned under great people, but today they're doing things on their own, and going way off. Right? I've heard a number of stories like that also, where the rabbis that taught them say, we have nothing to do with this person. So we have zero to do with this person. So what does that say? It just says they went off in their own direction. Now, that might not necessarily be a bad thing, if it's on the up and up. There are 70 faces to Torah. People go in different directions. All underneath the umbrella of Torah. So that's okay. Right? But once they start to veer off, and do things that are just wrong, then you got to say, like, what's going on here? And I will say, just, on that, we live in an upside down world. Right? The Gemara says, one of the rabbis went up to heaven, and they asked him, what'd you see? He said, I saw an upside down world. Meaning he saw people that are seemingly doing well in this world, they ain't doing so well in the next world and vice versa. Right? I've seen also, certain rabbis get all the respect and all the honor and this and that, written in magazines, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't trust them with anything. Because of what they say. Heresy, other things. It's an upside down world. Totally upside down world. But yeah, like anything else, rabbis should be checked out. 100%. Right? You also, also something very important is how they deal with others. It's also important. There's someone, big loudmouth, people that agree with him, just threw everybody under the bus. Everybody and their mother under the bus. This one doesn't know how to learn, this one this one that. They're not even Jewish, what do they know? Someone says, how can this person be a rabbi? I said, don't ask me. I don't answer those questions. Right? But you see, someone's got a temper. Someone, throws rabbis under the bus because thinks it's better than them. Yeah, the person today not doing very much at all. At least not in Torah. People saw it. It's a fraud. Total fraud. So, Character traits are also important. Tremendously important. Can't have one without the other. Again, that mean person may not have a bad day, doesn't mean that. Right? It doesn't mean we're perfect, by any stretch. I don't think, and we're going to be put, and the Jewish people in general will be put on a higher pedestal than anybody else. And that's because we're the chosen people. True. That means we have to be squeaky clean. Squeaky clean, no matter what we do. Business, in line at the store, whatever it is, we have to be squeaky clean. Because we don't want to give anyone ammunition to say, oh, look, the Jews this, the Jews that. Or, like say here in Israel, oh, these ultra-Orthodox Jews, this, that. They're the first ones they're going to come down against. A person pushes the line, cuts someone off on the road. They look visibly like an Orthodox Jew. It's over. People are just going to say, look, all Orthodox Jews this. We'd say that's racist, but okay. They'll make that statement. Non-Jews do it a lot. Some. They all, this Jew did it. All Jews, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a reason for that. We mentioned before. Kol Yisrael Ravim Zeh. All Jews are intertwined. Nobody cares if an Italian in Brooklyn that, does something egregious. They're not going to say, oh, let's burn down Italy. No more cannolis. Never going to happen. By Jews, totally different. Secular Jew, religious Jew, doesn't matter. But if someone's a religious Jew, that's a different issue. That makes it look worse. Makes it look 10 times worse. So we're going to be extra careful. We have to be sensitive. We're going to be extra careful. No matter what we do. One little slip up, it's over. It's kind of like, let's say there's, the New York Times, the Holy New York Times, destroys someone's reputation. Totally false, right? Totally false. So they get sued, liable, they have to pay damages, and they have to order an apology. That apology is not going, headlines first page. It's not going to go on the second page, third page, or fifth page. It's going to be page like 247. It's going to be so small in print, you need bifocals in order to read it. So you're going to say, but how does that help? Legally, it helps because they have no choice, right? So legally, that might help. Reputation destroyed, right? And a person like that is not going to get a second chance, even if they're right. The damage has been done. So, Jews in general, we have to be careful. We absolutely have to be careful. Now, you tell me, well, isn't that obvious? Treating people with proper respect, treating people the right way, not pushing them. Yeah, these are obvious things. I think some people miss the boat on them, but these are obvious things. Obvious things. How we speak to one another. Tell you a story. A couple of days ago, there was I was waiting for a bus, and a lot of people at the bus stop because doing construction. So, some buses pass by and they were full, whatever. So a bus comes by, everyone's trying to pile in. Now, nobody cares. They just want to get on the bus. I'm not saying even the weather was bad. It wasn't even bad weather. So you can think, well, that's Israel. That's what goes on. I'm not saying all the time. Right? But you sit and look at this, or other people look at this like, that's how people act. That's what the Torah tells them to do. Now, again, it's an excuse. Because they're going to say, see, I don't do that, but I don't follow Torah, so I'm okay. No. Even if people do something wrong, and they push and shove to get in the bus, doesn't mean it's right. Right? It doesn't mean you say, wow, I don't do that, so therefore I don't have to keep any Torah mitzvahs. That doesn't make any sense. That's just you justifying what you're doing by saying, see, I'm not as bad as them. We think God cares? After 120 years, I'm going to vouch for God here. Doesn't need me, but I'm going to vouch for him. He's going to ask you, why didn't you reach your potential? He goes, but what about the other people? He goes, I'll take care of the other people. Don't worry. I'll take care of them. That's not the question here. The question here is about you. You have to answer for yourself, not for anyone else. And they're going to have to answer for themselves. But you passing the buck, no such thing. So I've heard people say, people want to convert and say, wow, unbelievable responsibility to be part of the Jewish people. My answer is how Levi Jews would think that are born Jews. Say, what a responsibility to be a Jew. They're not thinking that. They're saying, what a terrible thing to be a Jew. I just happen to be born Jewish. And they hide it. They make fun of it. All kinds of things. They want responsibility for being a Jew. They want to run away as far as they can go. But I hear often enough, what a privilege. Serve God in the right way, to do what God wants, to be a proper Jew. And I always think every single time I think the same thing. Why don't born Jews think this? Why don't we think the awesome responsibility? So what's the answer? You say we get beaten down in life. We have other issues, to deal with. Okay. But you got 13 million Jews running away, having nothing to do with Judaism. They don't think it's a privilege. Not at all. They think it's something to hide from. Something they don't want to have anything to do with. When I hear a non-Jew say that, that's the first thing that comes up in my mind. Really, the second thing. First thing is, it's an unbelievable thing to hear. Because that's coming from the pureness of the heart. And they don't want to make mistakes. And they want to do the right thing. And they don't want to desecrate God's name. It's a huge thing. Right? It puts a little bit of fear in them. Right? So that would be the first thing I think about. The second thing would be what everyone else says. And how embarrassed they are, about their Judaism. And someone once said, I was in a certain place, and they said, it's embarrassing to be around with you in public. I said, what do you mean? It wasn't like I was wearing a black hat and a suit. Yeah, I was wearing tzitzis out, and I was wearing a yarmulke on my head. They're embarrassed. They didn't mince any words. They were embarrassed. Embarrassed to be a Jew. Now again, I'm not saying in that avenue might have been the best thing to do, but, in general, I would say that's how a lot of Jews are. Especially this generation. Previous generations, I still see, even by, people I grew up with, some people have tremendous Jewish pride. Unbelievable Jewish pride. Secular, but it's, they have Jewish pride. Everyone else, everything else, anything goes. Anything goes. Even if they admit that they're Jewish. For a lot of people, that's something to be proud of. Even for me, the secular Jew is definitely something I was proud of. Not that I knew that much about it. But I can understand why people try and hide it, if they could, or not envelop it, not want to be a part of it in different ways. The stigma, tremendous stigma. Today's different, though, in many ways. One major way is that there are Orthodox Jews everywhere. See them everywhere. Business, far out places like where Chabad goes. They see them. We're out there. Well, that's good and bad. When we do the right thing, we make a tremendous sanctification of God's name. Very good. When we do the wrong thing, snowballs. We have to be careful. Right? We have to be careful. No question. And again, there are people who tremendously, have tremendous pride. Tremendous pride. People you would never think of in general. Which, I'm always amazed by certain people. I see what they, sometimes I see what they post or whatever, and I'm like, it's unbelievable. I'm like, okay, they go to synagogue twice a year, 3 times a year. They don't keep kosher. They do all kinds of other things. but they have this Jewish pride. Jewish pride's not enough to pass it down to the next generation. Right? That's like having a body without a soul. Trying to pass down Judaism, with Zionism without the meat and potatoes, which is Torah mitzvahs. That can't be done. And if it is done in a certain way where the next generation is going to have Jewish pride, right, they're lucky. But it's going to get watered down. And then the next generation more watered down. I know someone who has a child intermarried. So they're very stringent that their grandkids were Jewish because their daughter's Jewish. So they're very stringent. Their grandkids should get certain Jewish values. Okay. Is that going to keep them Jewish? Yeah, I don't think so. But, I think it's wishful thinking. Well, say, well, we're going to make them a Passover Seder so they know what Passover is. But you don't even know what Passover is. You don't even know what it represents. So what are you going to give to them? You're going to give them a secularized version of what the holiday is. That's going to keep them Jewish. They're going to say, that's what we do. That's as much as we can do. No, it's not as much as you can do. That's what you're going to do. A big difference. A big difference. But I digress. Point is that the more watered down it is, the more it won't get passed down. Clear. But there are people, either they're intermarried, they'll say they're still proud to be Jewish, and they'll do Jewish things or whatever. But there are a lot of people out there that just don't want anything to do with it. Nothing. They won't go to service, they won't do this. And, they may admit that they're Jewish. That far they'll go. But that's where it stops. I can go further than that. But that again, you're not going to be able to pass that down. They're not interested in passing it down. Right? So, back to the original. So someone asked, how can we rectify the past generation's sins? How you can't. The only thing we can do today is to be the best Jews or Jew wannabes that we can be. Fixing up what our ancestors did. Some people, you can't, it's a very hard thing to do. I heard Rabbi Berger of Torah told me this a while ago, that he said that today, the people coming back that are converting, in the secular Jews that are becoming religious. So the Jewish community is going to go through them, because it's going to go through us. Whether you're more modern, less modern, whatever, that's the Judaism is going to pass down. Everything else, they're finished. Intermarriage assimilation, it's over. Never be able to pass it down. So how can we fix our past generations? By making this generation strong. By not diluting Torah, by doing exactly what the Torah tells, and beyond. We lost a lot in the previous generation. That this, Hitler Yamach Shemoy V'Zichroi, may name be blotted out, may rot wherever he is. The first people he rounded up and he tried to find and kill were the rabbis. He also killed 1.5 million children. So mind-boggling, 1.5 million children, because Hitler wasn't stupid. He understood if we don't have teachers and we don't have students, there's no Judaism left. So how many people grew up a Reformed conservative, went to Hebrew school like I did twice a week, couple hours a day, a couple hours a time, had their bar mitzvah. People hated it. It's after school, you want to play, you want to have fun, this, that. They didn't enjoy it. Had their bar mitzvah and that was it. Or some people say more bar than mitzvah. That's what it is. Now, how do you fix that up? You can't fix that up. No way to fix that up. These people are going to be lost. Spiritual, going to be lost. Heard Rabbi is real Talbot. Someone asked him once about, is this what we're living through now? This is like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. More. They asked him, is this a cleansing process? What we see now. The rapid assimilation and intermarriage. He said, yeah. So who's going to be left? Us. We're the only ones left. So now, how can it be? What's going to be with the previous generation? Nothing we can do. You see, even though there are more people learning today than the time of the Second Temple, let's think about that. There are more people learning today than in that time. The quality of learning, not even close. Doesn't mean we don't have rabbinic scholars. Doesn't mean we don't have a lot of people learning at a high level and different things. We have tremendous things going on. But they're not the same. We lost a lot. So now, after that generation, and Hitler wiped them out, there were religious Jews that didn't want anything to do with Judaism after that. And they wanted to give their kids, more money, whatever. They passed that down. They didn't pass down Judaism. It's over. So you have a whole generation of ignoramuses. That's what you have. 90% of the Jewish people can barely read Aleph Beis. They get very strong opinions. They can't read Aleph Beis. And they'll tell you what their opinion is based on nothing. Oh, but you learn all day. You've been learning for the last 30 years. What do you know? My opinion is just as valid. Yeah, because you watch the 10 Commandments. You watch Fiddler on the Roof. I call William Hall here. It's funny. I saw a post of it. He found a record. He found a record player, record, whatever. And the record was Fiddler on the Roof. I was gonna put a thing on his post saying, you should get rid of it. The worst thing for Judaism, Fiddler on the Roof. Every Jew, secular Jew, seeing, Fiddler on the Roof and the 10 Commandments. Probably most Woody Allen movies also. Right? But so why do I say Fiddler on the Roof is so bad? Look at the theme. It's all about assimilation and intermarriage. That's what the theme is. Across the board. But every Jew seen it. They don't care about the message, what it gives off. There's no difference. That's what we have today. So the only thing we can do is try to bring them back. You're not going to bring back everybody. We can try, to the best of our ability, bring as many Jews back as we can. They've been robbed of their beautiful heritage that they've thrown in the garbage. That's what's happened. So how do you fix that up? The only way is to try and reach them through education. Otherwise, they're going to be lost. Can't make up for that. What we can do, in this generation, build up our families, build up the yeshivas, girls' schools, and all that. That's going to keep Judaism strong. Everything else is a bunch of pretenders, at best. At best. They're all going to disappear spiritually. 90% of Jewish people. See, Rashi brings down a couple weeks ago. Rashi says, 80% of the Jewish people didn't come out of Egypt. 80%. So imagine the 8 million people, give or take, didn't come out of Egypt. 20% who saw God at Mount Sinai. Right, it's about 2 or 3 million people. So do the math, about 8 million people. So you got 14.5 million Jews today. Maybe you have 1 million, give or take, that are religious in some way. That keep Torah mitzvahs in some way. Some more, some less, whatever it is. That means you got 13 million that are wiped off the face of the map spiritually. That means you have a higher percentage, 90%. How do you fix that? You can't fix that. The only thing we can do is try and bring as many people back and learn as much Torah as we can, because that has a tremendous effect. Because the adage goes, if I keep Shabbos in Israel properly, that's going to stop someone in France from desecrating Shabbos. That's the power of Torah. That's the power. We have to live up to that. You can see about people assimilating this and that. Okay. There's only so much we can do. We have to be better. So we can try and draw them closer. I don't have a better solution. Everyone else are going to be lost. I'll give raw statistics just in my own family. My mother's got 4 aunts and an uncle. There's only 2 left. I have a great aunt that's, I think, 95. She should be well. And an uncle's like 89. I think he's 89. Just turned 89. Now, 2 out of the 3 aunts, or 3 out of the 4, sorry, 2 out of 4, their lines, if you do the genealogy, they disappear spiritually. 1 is on life support. Why do I say life support? Because there's a bunch of intermarriage through that line, except the girls are Jewish. So their kids are Jewish. And they have, they have some girls also. So that next generation will be Jewish also, even with non-Jewish names. It's kind of crazy, but okay. So in a bunch of generations, that's going to be finished. So that's why I say it's on life support. And my mother's line goes through me. That's it. So here you have 5 kids. Yeah, 5 kids and 2 lines left. 1 on life support and me. That's the norm. That's the norm. So how do you fight that? Everyone in my family knows who the religious one is. I don't have people breaking down my door. I can have a conversation with them about anything else except religion. Okay? How do you fix that? You can't bring someone to drink. You can send them information, this, that, and they can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. But that's what's happening in this generation. The fact that I came out of it's a pretty big miracle in many ways. So now you're saying these other 4 lines, they're all finished spiritually. You can't fix that unless they want to be fixed. Meaning they want to learn. They want to come back, whatever. But most of them, not interested whatsoever. None. Not at all. They're going to do what they want to do, and that's it. And so, I don't think that there is any way to fix it. Except that whoever is brought back, whoever comes out of, this darkness will come out. And whoever doesn't, they'll be lost. As Rabbi Talber said, it's a cleansing process. Right? It's an absolute cleansing process. Yeah. I see a bunch of questions here. Someone asked, person led a sexually immoral life. Yeah, you open a lot of doors you wouldn't normally touch, right? Come back to Torah, those doors are closed, but the thoughts are still there. Can they go away? You have to work hard. You have to remember, impurity sticks to a person like glue. Does that mean it totally disappears? You got to work hard. That's what we're here for. We've used the story of Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya. There wasn't a prostitute Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya was not with. And he spent a lot of money to be with this one prostitute. And he crossed like 7 seas or whatever. And he gets there and something happens. And he wants to repent. And he goes to the sea. Can you help me? No. Can you go to the mountains? No. Go to this one? No. So he says, I only see it's dependent on me. Puts his head between his knees. He cries and he dies. He dies in an absolute tshuva. So then the Gemara says, Rabbi, Elazar ben Dordaya is welcome in the next world. What do you mean, Rabbi? 2 minutes before, he's scum of the earth. So Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda the Prince said, some people get their olam haba, their portion of the next world, in 1 second. Some of us takes a lifetime. So this guy was scum of the earth. Total scum of the earth. So if he's totally scum of the earth and he's called rabbi in the end to boot, there's hope for everybody. Does that mean a person's going to forget all their thoughts and what they've done? That's not going to be so easy. Remember one thing, a little bit of Torah pushes away a lot of darkness. The more a person's in tune, they're working on themselves, they work on controlling thoughts. Does it totally disappear? I'm not going to say it does. Can they push it down tremendously. They can't. It's possible. Could come up in different ways, this, that, but okay, that's what the Eitzar is. Definitely possible. Right? There are people who come from terrible situations and become great rabbinic scholars. Totally change their lives. Can happen. Definitely not easy. Right? Everyone has their own challenges. That is probably one of the major challenges today, if not the major challenge today, is immorality. Because when a person goes outside, as I heard it said, if a person goes outside to the supermarket, you see more immorality than like our grandparents saw in their lifetime. So it's a different world. But we're saturated with it all over the place. All over the place. Right? It's oversaturated. So how does the person guard their eyes? How do they guard themselves? You got to work very hard to do that. You got to work very, very hard to do that. Is it possible to overcome it? It's possible. But, it's not going to be easy. Like anything else. I don't think the Eitzar is not going to come in. Of course. But see, I would say like this. If a person was able to overcome it in different urges and this and that, 70% of the time, I think they'd be very happy to take that. The other 30% doesn't necessarily mean they act on it. Maybe, every so often they'll see things they shouldn't see, whatever, right? Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to act on it. But if they're overcome it 70% of the time, I think a person will be very happy with that. Very happy with it. Because we live in this world. You got to be blind not to see what's going on. It's a crazy world. I remember when I was in South America, I go food shopping and they're like naked women on posters in the supermarket. I'm like, this is why I need to come buy apples for. These stupid, but they're all over the place. You might say, okay, Europe's different, more risque, this, that, whatever. Person driving down the highway, see the billboard, right? An immodest billboard. You don't have any intention to look, but it stares you right in the face. Then you start thinking about other things and one thing, another. Yeah, we got to be careful. 100% we have to be careful. That's why I don't want to let it open at all. Don't want to open any doors. But it's not always possible. Person goes outside, he sees somebody, then let's say, want to look, but the person will walk right in front of them, and they're wearing a tank top and shorts, like, you're not sitting there staring, but like, it's right in front of your face. So yeah, I got to take those thoughts, get rid of them. Even if the thought came in your mind, if you get rid of it straight away, fine. You don't transgress. But if a person thought about it and this and that, problem. Right? Definitely problem. Again, this is one of the hardest things because it's the strongest inclination that God gave us. And we're not living in Victorian England. Right? It's just an ownerless world. People just do whatever they want and wear whatever they want. And yeah, it's hard. Definitely hard. Torah points out they feel like they're starting at zero. Well, if you're starting at zero, then you can only go up. Right? So I guess that's a benefit. About the sins of our forefathers. Listen, we weren't there, but we're still paying for certain things we mentioned. We mentioned by the sin of the golden calf, we're still paying for that in every generation. But I wasn't there. We have to understand there's a collective punishment for the entire Jewish nation. When somebody does something wrong, you don't just suffer. Your family might suffer, other people might suffer. It's not just about us. We are our own world, true, but we have an effect on the greater world and on other people as well. So if a person wants to, try and stay squeaky clean, or at least not have punishment be so severe, they should work with the community. They should do community charitable things, other things. Why? Because when helping out with the community, the law of justice is taken down. It's taken down. That's a good way out. Even if you deserve to be punished severely, other people don't because you're doing good things. Doesn't mean You're not going to get punished. Right? But at the same time, you're helping out with the community. It's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. One thing I would say also is that what we see around us, see what family doing, friends are doing, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. And and they'll make fun and they'll say things and this and that. It's painful. It's painful. But you know what? If someone doesn't want to listen, that's not my problem. We do what we can do. They don't want to listen. It's their choice. Right? Doesn't necessarily mean it's not painful, but it is what it is. I wish so many people would just open up their eyes and just see. They don't want to see. They don't want to see. They don't want to listen. That's already off my shoulder. There's nothing you can do. That means it's not painful. Right? It's also painful. Someone asks, can Noahides be buried anywhere except next to Christians and Muslims? Noahides can be buried, next to Muslims wouldn't be a problem because they believe in one God. I wouldn't say Muslims necessarily 100% Noahides, but being buried next to Christians, idolaters, that might be an issue. They should be buried in a non-sectarian place where they're not Christians or whatever. Muslims, I think it's less of an issue because, for most things, they believe in one God. They believe the same God we do, seemingly. So, be buried next to a Muslim shouldn't necessarily be an issue. Someone asks, is the love of Hashem mean I do the mitzvah because I love Hashem and I want Hashem to love me back? And what if Hashem does it? What does he owe you? He gives you life. Right? He lets you breathe. Takes care of your needs. So whatever you do, you're doing for his sake. Because you believe he runs the world. Does Hashem love us? Yeah, if we do the right thing. We go in the right path. And if not, right, we're in trouble. We certainly believe, God is going to love us. I don't think there's any question. I mean, obviously, if we're doing the right thing. We have to realize one thing. The Mishnah Perkei Avos says, right, it says in Ethics of Our Fathers, tells us the highest level serve God without even getting reward. And let's say he wouldn't love you back. So, you're going to keep his mitzvahs anyway? It's not contingent. We keep mitzvahs because we're obligated to keep them. That's it. And whether he loves us or not part of the equation. We're going to keep it no matter what. Someone asked, what is the difference between kosher and kashrut? Nothing. Same thing. Kashrut is Hebrew. Right? It just means that either the food is kosher or it means that an animal is properly ritually slaughtered or something like that. But kosher and kashrut mean the same thing. Right? It's the same thing. Someone asked, what's a kosher job versus not a kosher job? There are many jobs that are kosher. A person can be a lawyer, a doctor, other things that, wouldn't necessarily be an issue. Right? A non-kosher job may be, working in a casino, working in a place that serves milk and meat that you're not allowed to eat or serve to other people. Those type of things. Someone asks, what's happening with Noahides and people becoming Jews and training from Jeremiah 3? Let's see. What does he say over here? Here he's giving a rebuke, messianic prophecy. Talking about repentance. He's talking about prophecy over here, the messianic times. Yeah, we are definitely living in unbelievable times, right? No question. Everyone agrees it's the messianic era. So you got non-Jews coming out wanting truth, right? Certainly could be part of it, right? No question. Let me see. You're talking about 14 and 15. I don't know if it's exactly talking about today. Because here it says, return, O wayward sons, the word of Hashem shall be your master. I'll take you even from one city to another, right? And two from a family, bring you to Zion, shall appoint shepherds for your, according to my own heart. To carry you with knowledge and wisdom. Could be. Well, that's really talking about the end of days. Right? That's really talking about, the Messiah coming and all that. But yeah, taking people and giving them proper wisdom and having them learn from others, i.e. from us, could be. Right? Could definitely be. A person can also think, I asked somebody this question, why I became religious like in the 30s. He said, that's not the question. He said, why is it I'm the only one who became religious, no one else? In the family. And siblings also. Right? That's a good question. Well, listen, you can see the same thing. Family members don't want to come along. Right? You can say the same thing about me. Just me. Right? It's no one else. Right? So, bottom line is that's to come from a person's desire. You can't bring someone to drink. If they don't want it, it's their choice. Right? It's totally their choice. Someone asked, we consider part of the lost tribes. We don't know who we are, unless the person knows they're a Kohen or a Levi. Right? It has nothing to do with the lost tribes. The lost tribes is a different thing. Right? I once told somebody, that, in the black sheep, the family goes, no, you're not the black sheep, you're the white sheep. You're the white sheep. It had nothing to do with the lost tribes. Lost tribes is a totally different thing. That's a totally different thing. There's allowed for Noahites to watch the news. It's allowed for anyone to watch the news. Right? So, for a non-Jew, I would say there are less issues. Even, if there's Lashon Hara, people speaking badly against others doesn't really apply to a non-Jew, but I don't think it's good in general. Just has a negative effect. See bad things, hear bad things. Is it forbidden? Not necessarily. I wouldn't say it's forbidden, but we always have to ask if what I'm doing is it good for my soul or not. Right? Someone asks if they have a Jewish soul, they're on Mount Sinai, they have responsible for the great-grandchildren converting to Christianity. Oh, it's a good question. Listen, someone whose soul was at Mount Sinai, how could that soul now become not Jewish? Intermarriage, simulation. Kabbalistically, the whole question how it works. We're not going to go there, but there's a whole question over here. What happened? How can the soul be not Jewish? Simulation, intermarriage. Very easy. Right? So now, are they going to be held responsible? I don't know to what level. Everyone makes choices. Right? Are the parents responsible for how their kids turn out? Yeah. Harsh thing to say, but it's true. Now you can say, but they have free will. You're right. But you have to do everything in your power to educate them the right way. And if not, you're held responsible. So now, someone assimilated. Why are they assimilated? Parents can play a tremendous role in that. So they'll pay the price. But even if the parents played a role, that person made their choice. And if they made their choice, they're also going to be responsible. 100% they'll be responsible. Right? And they didn't educate their child properly. So they're responsible for that and for their kids also. But each one has responsibility for that next generation. That's what I would say. There will be far-reaching consequences. Someone says, should we vote? In America, it's less of an issue. I would say it's definitely less of an issue than here in Israel. It's a much more volatile issue, but in different ways. A person wants their voice heard. Yeah, especially putting someone in power who at least, would have certain values that are good for Torah, then yeah. Here in Israel, different issue. Even though everyone will say, most rabbinical authorities say you have to vote anyway, it doesn't really matter. Some will say, no, you have nothing to do with these people. You have nothing to do with them and putting them in power and this and that. But someone will say, if you don't vote, it's going to be a lot worse. True? Right? So you need religious parties and this and that. Others will say you should never have anything to do with these people, because it's going to have a negative influence, etc. But whatever, it's a much, much more volatile issue. Much more volatile issue. Is it okay not to vote? I mean, you could say, right. You could say, well, God's going to appoint who he wants. True. And I would say, if I would vote in New Jersey or Boston, my vote's not going to matter anyway, because I'm always Democratic. People say, but yeah, exercise your right. Yeah. So if everyone thought like you, no one would vote. True. On the other hand, you're right. God's going to choose anyway, but we have to put our best foot forward. Person can say that about anything. I'm not going to work. Why am I not going to work? Because I know God's going to take care of my needs. Now, if you're on that spiritual level, fine. If you're not, you got to put your best foot forward in general. All right, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Israel time, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or at Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.